Revenge with Karen.
I knew he was going to be a problem the moment he said synergy twice before his third sentence, and not even in context. Just flung it out like a drunk toddler with mashed potatoes. This was the new strategic head our retired CEO had hand-delivered from his summer wedding/retirement bash in Cabo, his son, Chase. 29 years old. Fresh MBA, or cologne that smelled like a Wall Street divorce and had teeth so white they made the projector screen look jaundiced. They brought him in like he was royalty. An all-hands meeting, catered breakfast, company-branded Yeti mugs for everyone. Like we were all supposed to be thrilled, we get our strategy dictated by a human linked in post. I'd been with Halden and Bright for 14 years, longer than most of the VPs combined. I'd buried 3 reorgs, 2 acquisitions, and 1 office rat infestation, so bad facilities just named it Steve and gave it a badge. But I'd never seen morale die so fast as when Chase took the mic. Excited to be here, he grinned, waving like he just landed on a dating show. I think there's a ton of opportunity to modernize, clean up some legacy waste, especially around bloated compensation plans. That word, bloated, hit me like a slap. I glanced sideways at Heather from sales comp. Her nostrils flared. She'd worked through the birth of her twins to hit Q4 goals last year. Meanwhile, Chase was here treating our profit-sharing charter like it was an optional appetizer. Then came the handshake. Limp, moist. He said, "Great to meet you," with that half-smile people give when they're scanning the room for someone more important. I gave him my best Midwest polite nod, the kind that says I will poison your career with a smile and a footnote. Just so we're clear, this isn't one of those CEO's kid ruins company sob stories with a happy epilogue and a TED talk about failure. This is about what happens when someone disrespects the invisible people holding the damn beams up. Oh, and hey, before we go full Game of Thrones in the boardroom, real quick. If you're enjoying the story, tap that like button and hit subscribe. 93% of folks listen without subscribing. It really helps the team keep these stories coming. Plus, every click makes Chase's cologne a little weaker. I think we all win there. Anyway, after the all hands, Chase did a victory lap through the departments, flanked by a parade of HR handlers and VPs trying not to look nervous. He poked his head into compliance and performance like a kid inspecting a public restroom. Said something about streamlining outdated workflows. He glanced at the bonus charts pinned on my wall, Q4 forecasts, KPI, a nice linear climb that showed we were outperforming targets by 7.3%. That bonus model, he asked, flicking a finger toward it. That's the comp plan? I nodded. Board approved, linked to performance, adjusted for risk-weighted objectives. It's airtight. He snorted, looks inflated. I'll probably flatten it a bit, make it lean. Then he winked at me, like we were co-conspirators in some grand new vision. Like he hadn't just stepped into a room full of people who knew every inch of this company's fiscal skeleton. People who wrote the damn charter he was about to piss on. But I didn't argue. I just opened a new sticky note on my desktop and typed. January 9, 10:47 a.m., Chase referred to board-approved bonus charter as bloated. Suggested flattening. That's the thing about being invisible. They don't see you take notes. They don't see you listening. They don't see that the quiet woman in the corner isn't just tracking performance metrics. She's tracking every word you say that might be actionable in court. He left the room still smirking. But I wasn't angry. Not yet. Not when I already knew what was hiding in section 4.3.1c. Meeting was held in what used to be the break room before someone, in facilities, decided collaboration zones were the future. Now it had beanbag chairs no one used, a whiteboard no one cleaned, and that weird lemongrass diffuser that smelled like someone trying to hide a fart with essential oils. Chase sauntered in 5 minutes late with an oat milk latte and the energy of a man who'd never been told no by someone not on payroll. Okay, let's do intros. I want to know what makes this division tick, he said, clapping once, like a substitute gym teacher about to lose control of dodgeball. We went around the room. Heather talked about realigning sales comp KPIs. Lewis mentioned audit compliance timelines. Dana mentioned the new vendor risk protocols. Chase nodded politely through all of it, clearly absorbing none of it. The moment I said, bonus structure is tied to rolling KPIs and profitability margin, he visibly perked up. Ah, yes. The infamous bonus charter, he said, chuckling. You know, I was just looking at that last night. He leaned back in his chair like a tech speaker about to unleash some revolutionary nonsense. Frankly, I think the whole thing's a little inflated. Heather blinked. You mean the board-approved comp structure? The one tied to fiscal year targets? Yeah, waved his hand like he was swatting at a fly made of facts. I get it, it's legacy. But let's be honest, folks, those bonus numbers, that's not performance, that's charity with math. I opened my folder calmly. Just to clarify, the current bonus allocations are based on quarterly performance reviews, KPI compliance thresholds, and margin contributions audited externally. Chase didn't even look at me. He just sipped his latte, then said, with all the weight of a man who's never done payroll in his life, that bonus, it's a rounding error we're correcting. And right there, the room shifted. You could feel it like someone had popped a hole in the oxygen line. Heather sat back in her chair. Lewis crossed his arms. Dana started quietly typing something, probably a resignation letter draft. Me, I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I just noted the timestamp on my notepad. January 11, 2:22 p.m. referred to bonus plan as rounding error. Then I smiled. Not because I liked it. God, no. But because I had the exact sentence he just violated etched into my memory from a charter I helped rebuild after the Claremont acquisition 2 years ago. Back when we merged systems, policies, cultures, and I insisted, no matter what, we keep a fail-safe clause. Everyone rolled their eyes, called it overkill, said it made the charter sound paranoid. Guess what, Chase? Paranoia has a clause number, 4.3.1c, and it bites. But in that moment, I didn't reach for it, not yet. Let him wander deeper into the minefield. Let him think he's Moses, parting the comp plan like the Red Sea. He thinks I'm a formality, an HR checkbox, an empty seat with a clipboard and a smile. He has no idea I am the reason this department hasn't been sued into oblivion 6 times in the last decade. Still, I kept quiet, even when he ended the meeting by saying, let's reconvene next week. I'll bring some realignment ideas that reflect our new vision for incentives. The man thinks incentives are stickers on a chore chart. As the rest of the team filed out in silence, I stayed behind for a moment, staring at the whiteboard he'd scribbled modernize / trim FAT on. I took out my phone, snapped a photo. Not because I needed the reminder, but because it was going to be hilarious later when legal needed visuals for the forensic report. Then I walked back to my desk, sat down, opened the charter, scrolled. Section 4.3.1c stared back at me like an old friend at a bar. Executive action nullifying or materially altering board-approved employee compensation without prior review shall trigger an automatic departmental penalty of 10% against all executive profit-sharing disbursements for the affected quarter. A rounding error, huh? Let's round your whole damn bonus into the sun, Chase. 2 years ago, I was living off black coffee and red lines. The Claremont merger was what they called a strategic expansion, which is corporate for we bought a flaming garbage barge, and now we're going to try to sell it as a yacht. Claremont's compliance protocols were a joke. Their bonus structure, Wild West, directors cutting side deals with no paper trail, phantom KPIs showing up 3 days before close. Hell, one department awarded a Q4 retention bonus to a guy who quit in Q3. So when I was tapped to help consolidate the performance charters, I didn't smile. I sharpened my damn pencil. That's when I wrote clause 4.3.1c, my little insurance policy. Are you sure you want to die on this hill? Clause. I wrote it after watching one too many frat boy execs yank 6 figures from frontline managers with a shrug and a vacation tan. The wording was surgical, dry, but the guts of it were clear. If an executive made any unauthorized change to a board-approved compensation plan, wouldn't just be violating protocol, they'd be taking a 10% profit-sharing hit across their entire department. Immediate, no delay. The clause made sure the pain was mutual, so no one could just screw the little guys and walk away with their own wallet untouched. I remember the meeting when I presented it. Gray conference room, burnt coffee. The Claremont guys laughed. Kayla, that's a bit dramatic, don't you think? One VP said, loosening his tie like he'd just discovered women could read spreadsheets. Another one chimed in, feels like a nuclear option for paper cut. I stared right at them. It's not a nuclear option, it's a warning flare. If you don't want to step on it, don't play in the minefield. They voted it in, reluctantly. Mostly because no one thought they'd ever trigger it. But I knew better. So now, 2 years later, I sat at my desk, coffee gone cold, watching Chase strut around the building like he was the second coming of Warren Buffett, and I smiled. I pulled up my archive, searched, comp charter final merged FY plus one founded, opened it, scrolled. Section 4.3.1c, there it was. Still ugly, still perfect. Executive action nullifying or materially altering board-approved employee compensation without prior review shall trigger an automatic departmental penalty of 10% against all executive profit-sharing disbursements for the affected quarter. That last part, for the affected quarter, was the dagger, because Chase had just unilaterally slashed bonuses for this quarter, meaning the clause wasn't theoretical anymore. It was live, armed, counting down. This wasn't a sledgehammer. Couldn't just swing it in the hallway like a madwoman. This clause only worked if deployed with surgical timing. Drop it too early, they'd write it off as emotional overreaction. Too late, and Chase could bury the damage under half-baked reorg memos and HR fluff. No, this had to land right after the numbers were real and the damage was provable, but before the execs got their own bonus projections. Because once they saw what Chase cost them, eat him alive. I minimized the charter and opened a blank email. To CFO, subject per section 4.3.1c, no body text, no explanation. Just attach the charter. Then I saved it as a draft, ready, loaded, waiting. They came to me one by one like confused kids after a fire drill no one warned them about. First was Heather. She stood by my desk, bonus statement clutched in one hand like a dead bird. "Ella, is this right?" Her voice cracked. "It's off, like way off." I took the paper from her, scanned it, 23% cut. I didn't react, just nodded once. "Thanks, Heather, I'll take a look." Then came Lewis, then Dana, then half of sales comp, half of ops alignment. One after another, shell-shocked, quiet, embarrassed. People who hit every metric we set. People who stayed late, came in early, worked weekends without even logging the overtime. Their bonuses slashed between 22% and 33%. No warning, no justification, no math, just a cheerful, condescending memo that landed in inboxes at 7:02 a.m. with the subject line, "Bonus adjustment strategic realignment for fiscal optimization" inside. Chase's voice practically oozed through the screen. "In alignment with our evolving fiscal priorities and a commitment to lean efficiency, we have streamlined Q1 bonus allocations to better reflect long-term value creation. These adjustments ensure sustainability across departments while reinforcing incentive equity." Translated from corporate, we did it because I felt like it, and I thought no one would stop me. I didn't argue, didn't rage. I just stood from my desk, walked slowly to the printer in the back of the room, and grabbed the freshly printed final bonus structure, one signed by the board just 6 weeks earlier. The one that had all our metrics, projections, and quarterly triggers laid out like gospel. I walked back, sat down, opened Outlook. To CFO subject per section 4.3.1c body for review per existing charter. Attachment, compensation plan Q1 signed PDF sent. That's it. That was the shot. No shouting, no team meeting, no Slack tirade, just the silent flip of a safety off a very old, very powerful rifle. Chase didn't even notice the gun aimed at his foot. I heard him laughing down the hall that afternoon, talking to someone from legal, joking about how the olds always whined when you tried to change anything. The CFO didn't reply, not immediately, but I saw the read receipt. 9:31 a.m. He knew what he was holding. He helped draft the damn thing with me during the merger. Was one of the few who didn't roll his eyes when I insisted we include the penalty clause. I remember him saying, "You're going to get flack for this." And I told him, "Only until it saves your ass." Now it was time. The trap wasn't just about Chase screwing over my team. It was about how he did it. No vote, no review, no notification to the board, no documentation filed with audit. Just one man with a God complex and a spreadsheet, thinking he could rewrite compensation law because he took an online course in behavioral economics. The beauty of it? Every single exec in Chase's shiny new restructured department had their profit sharing tied to that same bonus charter. Meaning, when he slashed our bonuses, he accidentally pulled the pin on his own. Because per the clause, the moment an unauthorized comp adjustment goes live, 10% of the total exec profit share for that department is forfeited. No debate, no appeals. That means every manager who sucked up to Chase was about to realize their wine fridge money just vanished into smoke because their fearless leader decided to fiscally optimize his way into a knife fight. But this wasn't a frontal assault. Not yet. This was a chess move, and I had just sacrificed my pawn. Now, I just had to wait for the queen to fall. Reply hit my inbox at 6:14 a.m. the next morning. No text, just a meeting invite. Subject, Executive Compensation Alignment Urgent Location. Conf Room A2 Executive Wing Time, 11 o'clock a.m. Sharp attendees. CFO, Chase, Head of Strategy, SVP Ops, VP Sales Enablement, Legal Counsel, CEO not me. And that was perfect, because if I was in that room, they'd see it coming. Instead, stayed exactly where I was, right at my desk on floor 3, sipping reheated coffee from my chipped Halden and Bright mug while my team wandered in, tired and quiet, eyes still puffy from yesterday's hit job. No one said it out loud, but the mood in compliance was funeral-level grim. Heather looked like she hadn't slept. Lewis was doing fake work, just clicking around spreadsheets like maybe, if he stared long enough, the numbers would fix themselves. By 9 o'clock, whispers started trickling in. Someone from finance pinged Dana on Slack. Why is the CEO attending a comp meeting? You hearing anything? By 9:20, an assistant from executive ops texted Lewis. Chase looked pissed walking into the CFO's office. By 10:05, I got a message from my old friend in legal, just 2 words, you lit it. I didn't reply. I just smiled. The thing is, our CEO, Richard Langston, doesn't do operational meetings. He's the figurehead type, suits tailored in London, speaks in phrases like value matrix and external optics, shows up twice a month to shake hands and sip filtered air. So when word spread that he would be in a comp meeting, people took notice. Chase didn't. Chase was too busy emailing out a follow-up to his fiscal optimization memo, filled with phrases like performance elasticity and streamlining stakeholder alignment. Translation: he was still clueless. That made what was coming even sweeter. See, the clause only works if you catch them with their pants already down. You can't warn. You can't explain. You let them walk into the room thinking it's just another Tuesday alignment session. And then you let the charter do the screaming. So while that parade of executives filed past the glass walls toward Conf Room A2, I just stared at the reflection in my monitor, watching their polished shoes click down the corridor like soldiers marching toward a minefield. By 11:03, they were all inside. By 11:07, the door was shut. And by 11:10, the text I'd been waiting for popped up on my screen. He read it. No punctuation. No need, because there's only one it. Section 4.3.1c. I leaned back in my chair, folded my hands. The office buzzed on around me, phones ringing, keyboards clacking, someone in ops arguing with procurement about billing codes. But in my head, silence. Beautiful, surgical silence. Because right now in that room, the CFO was reading a sentence that was about to cost every exec in strategy tens of thousands of dollars, and Chase. He was realizing that his father wasn't in that meeting to back him up. He was there to make sure he took the fall, not loudly, not publicly, just enough to make it stick. No one expected the CFO to come in with paper. Usually it's slides, dashboards, fancy PDFs projected onto the wall with Q1 compensation trends and corporate jargon so dense it needs a Sherpa. But this time, he walked in holding a single, stapled packet. Hard copy, no cover sheet, no branding, just 8 pages of legalese and blood. He didn't sit, didn't clear his throat. Just looked at Chase, then the CEO, then back at the room like a surgeon about to deliver a prognosis he already knew would kill someone. I'd like to start with a reading from the existing compensation charter, he said flatly. The room blinked. Some execs glanced at each other. Chase smirked. And then the CFO read it out loud. No inflection, just the raw blade of the clause itself. Any executive action nullifying or materially altering board-approved employee compensation without prior review shall trigger an automatic departmental penalty of 10% against all executive profit-sharing disbursements for the affected quarter. The air left the room like someone punched a hole in the HVAC. Silence. Then he placed the document on the table. Slid it, slow, deliberate, toward the CEO. Stopped just short of his monogrammed leather notebook. The CEO didn't pick it up right away. Just stared at it, then at the CFO. Then softly, dangerously calm, you authorized what? Chase blinked. The smirk melted. Wait, what is this, that clause? That's just, we're realigning. I didn't change the charter. You executed unauthorized changes to a ratified comp plan, the CFO said, without a vote, without notification. Distributed materially altered bonus figures to an entire division. That constitutes a violation of Section 4.3.1c. But I was told. Chase started, then stopped. Looked around, and that's when he noticed it. No one had his back. The SVP of Ops, arms folded, eyes cold. VP Sales Enablement, jaw clenched, tapping a pen hard enough to break it. Even legal counsel had gone quiet, gaze glued to the clause printed in black and white. Because they all knew what it meant. 10%. That was the number seared into every one of their minds now. 10% of their bonuses gone, instantly, retroactively. Chase had lit the fuse and tossed the grenade right into their wallets. And he didn't even know the pin had been out. I didn't mean to, he mumbled, hands twitching, voice small now. You don't get to mean to when you override charter law, the CFO said, voice like ice cracking under pressure. You get to answer for it. The CEO finally leaned forward, picked up the charter, flipped through the pages like he already knew what he was looking for, then looked at his son. Leave the room, he said. Chase didn't move. I said leave. No raised voice, no drama, just the gravity of a man watching his legacy unravel one bloodline at a time. Chase stood, walked to the door in a haze like he wasn't fully in his own body. For stepping out, he looked back at the room. One last time, and saw 30 years of career goodwill evaporating behind that glass. The moment the door clicked shut, the CEO looked at the CFO again. Is it reversible? No, the CFO said. The disbursement batch already processed. We'd risk compliance exposure trying to override it now. The CEO sighed. Then so be it. And just like that, it was done. No shouting. No slammed fists. Just the quiet sound of a man's future shutting like a file drawer. And back on floor 3, I kept my screen open to the live org chart. Watched as Chase's profile turned gray. Status, temporarily reassigned pending review. I closed the tab, folded my hands, and waited for the next move. By Thursday morning, the building hummed with the kind of tension you can't fake. Not rage, not gossip, awareness. You could hear it in the coffee line, executives whispering terms like retroactive clawback and structural violation behind half-full mugs. You could feel it in the elevator when someone hit floor 3 and glanced at me just a beat too long. It was like everyone had simultaneously remembered that compliance wasn't just a line item, it was the tripwire. And Chase, he'd stomped on it in steel-toe arrogance. By noon, the numbers were leaking out. Finance didn't say a word officially. Someone's assistant let it slip. Chase's stunt had triggered a loss of over $218,000 in executive profit sharing. That's not theoretical pain. That's second vacation homes, boat payments, tuition installments. Gone. Some execs lost 10, 12, even 15 grand overnight. Word hit the Slack channels like a flash flood. First in private DMs, then whispered in 1-1s, then not so subtle in cross-functional team threads. And suddenly, no one was covering for him anymore. Not ops, not sales enablement, not legal. Even the people who'd elbowed each other to sit next to him in meetings were now working from home indefinitely. I walked past one of the senior directors, VP of Systems, I think, on my way to the elevator. He slowed, didn't stop. Just nodded once and said, "Thank you." That was it. No fanfare, no sarcasm, just the acknowledgement of exactly what had happened. Someone in this company had protected the spine of the organization, and it wasn't the people wearing tailored blazers. It was the woman in floor 3 who remembered the clause no one else did. Funny thing about being underestimated, it makes your victories quieter, but sharper, cleaner, like piano wire through soft bread. Chase tried to run damage control, of course. He scheduled a string of rebuilding trust meetings, threw around words like miscommunication and unintended outcomes. Invited department heads to brainstorm sessions over catered lunch. They didn't show. One director flat out replied to the invite, "I don't eat with people who steal from my team." I watched his face that day when he walked back from the executive wing, shoulders hunched, suit wrinkled, tie loose. He looked like someone aging in real time. Because he wasn't just bleeding credibility, he was hemorrhaging control. His yes men gone mute, his vision team suddenly unavailable. Even his assistant had changed her Slack profile to do not disturb PTO planning. And through all of it, no one blamed me. No one questioned my role, because when the dust settled, it was my clause that had done what the board wouldn't. What the CEO couldn't. It protected the people who actually got the work done. I didn't gloat. didn't grandstand. Just did what I always did, updated the quarterly forecast, reviewed Q2 metrics, signed off on Heather's revised performance template. And when my inbox pinged with a subject line from the CEO's office, comp alignment, follow up private, I didn't open it right away. Because this wasn't the end. Not yet. It was the turn. The part of the game where the board shifts and everyone realizes the quiet piece they ignored for too long is the one that controls the center now. He scheduled the meeting himself. No assistant, no calendar ping from his office, just a Slack message sent at 7:43 a.m. Hey, can we chat? You free after 10? I read it. Didn't answer right away. Let it sit there for an hour like cold oatmeal. Then typed back, sure. Conf A5 works. He showed up 5 minutes early. Not because he was eager. Because no one else was speaking to him anymore. Could smell it on him, loneliness in a tailored suit. His swagger was gone. Hair uncombed, cuffs wrinkled. Even his cologne had given up. He stepped in like a kid waiting for detention to start. Thanks for making time, he said, trying to smile. I gave him nothing, just a nod, sat down, waited. He fidgeted, cleared his throat. So listen, I've been thinking about the situation. Obviously some stuff got twisted. There were gaps in how things were communicated to me. I think we may have had some wires crossed. He actually said it like a question, like maybe I'd jump in and rescue him from the awkwardness. I didn't. He continued, I mean the clause 4.3 whatever, it's vague, right? I mean there's room for interpretation. Maybe there's a workaround we could explore. That's when I smiled. Just barely. The kind of smile that says, you brought a spoon to a gunfight. I leaned forward, folded my hands. I follow the plan, I said calmly. You should have read it, he blinked. No follow-up, no retort, just the full weight of what that sentence meant. Because the plan didn't belong to me. It belonged to the system. The bylaws, the signatures, the audit trails. The very paper trail he thought he could steamroll with a buzzword and a spreadsheet. And now it was snapping shut around him like a bear trap. He tried again. Look, I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, okay? I was trying to show initiative. I thought, that's the problem, I interrupted, still calm, you thought. But you didn't read, you didn't ask, you didn't verify, you acted. He sat back, shoulders slumped. The meeting ended with no handshakes, no action items, just silence. 2 days later, the first signs of formal review began. Internal audit flagged the bonus adjustments as unauthorized compensation actions inconsistent with approved protocols. A compliance analyst from Risk was pulled off his normal docket to start a review. Legal initiated a documentation freeze on Chase's division. The email went out company-wide. All documents, communications, and records pertaining to Q1 compensation adjustments are to be preserved until further notice. Translation: the knives are out. Say nothing, save everything. I heard from someone in IT that Chase's laptop was cloned overnight, that legal had requested his Slack logs, that his keycard access to the executive wing had been temporarily limited. No one told him that last part. He found out the hard way when the glass doors flashed red and refused to open. I passed him in the hallway that morning. He didn't look at me. Just kept walking, jaw clenched, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept in days. I didn't stop him. Didn't say a word, because that's the thing about disintegration. It's not loud, it's not messy, it's not even theatrical, it's slow, like ice melting into dirty sidewalk slush, like a title slipping off a nameplate. The CEO, radio silent, hadn't replied to Chase's emails, hadn't returned calls, hadn't even acknowledged him in the Monday ops summary. Like the man had turned into a ghost, till technically on payroll, but functionally erased. And the team, no one asked where he was, no one cared. Even the execs he tried to charm were too busy figuring out how to get their missing bonuses reinstated without getting pulled into the audit themselves. Chase was still in the building, but he was already gone. It dropped at 4:52 p.m. on a Friday, the time reserved for firings, reorgs, and anything else corporate hopes you'll forget by Monday. Subject line: leadership transition announcement, strategic division, no fanfare, no all hands, no farewell Zoom with fake smiles and virtual claps. Just 3 bullet points and a hollow paragraph. Effective immediately, Chase Langston has chosen to resign to pursue other opportunities. We thank him for his contributions and wish him well in future endeavors. Interim supervision of strategy division operations will be handled by Kayla Monroe, Director of Compliance and Performance. That last sentence hit like a clean break. No extra words, no in the meantime, No until further notice. Just fact, my name, my title, my division, my jurisdiction. 10 minutes later, another email landed, this one from the payroll system. Subject line, Q1 bonus reissue confirmation. I opened it with zero ceremony. Just a click. There it was. My full bonus, untouched. And sitting underneath that, 10% retroactive uplift labeled Department Reallocation Adjustment Section 4.3.1c. It wasn't just vindication. It was interest. Then came the last ping. One more email from Richard Langston himself. No attachments, no corporate header. Just a plain text note in black font. Kayla, we saw what you did. Thank you for reading the fine print. That was it. No emojis. No HR legal phrasing. Just 10 words that told me everything I needed to know. I wasn't invisible. I was essential. And I'd played the long game better than anyone expected. By 5:17, Chase's name had been removed from the internal directory. His photo was gone from the executive wing's digital wall display. His voicemail redirected to admin services. The glass office he once held court in, lights off, nameplate gone, door slightly ajar. Didn't even get the dignity of a box of his things. One of the interns said she saw him walking out the east exit earlier that day, holding nothing but his car keys and a water bottle. No security escort, no goodbyes. Just a man who thought he could bulldoze the system and found out too late that the system had teeth. And me, I didn't say a word, didn't post anything on Slack, didn't strut, didn't gloat. I sat back down at my desk on floor 3, took a sip of my coffee, still warm, opened a new folder, Strategy Transition Q2 Planning, and started working. Because here's the truth, I never needed to raise my voice. I raised the right document, and it spoke loud enough for everyone. Big thanks, you legends of the old office days. Subscribe to keep the switch-flicking chaos alive. Your ex-boss is shaking in their loafers.